Welcome back to the Rabbit Hole Sports Podcast. This is part 3 of our episode on NFL postseason contenders, pretenders, and disruptors with our special guest, Sal Garcia. If you need to catch up on any of the previous 2 parts, just check out the previous uploads on Spotify or YouTube, whichever platform you may be watching on. If you want more content from us, head on over to rabbitholesports.com. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the episode, everyone.
Can we move on to the 49ers here, boys? How are we feeling? Are we feeling some Bay Area pride right now with San Francisco?
Oh, yeah. Born and raised, been a Niners fan since, 2007?
Yeah, I was going to say, Sal, if you don't go contender, then none of us should say contender.
Dude, if we were looking at the clock, I would be going for hours for the Niners. But short and simple, contenders. One of the best offenses in the league. One of the better defenses in the league. Christian McCaffrey, one of the best seasons he's having so far. No injuries. Or even when he gets hurt, he's still able to step it up and continue on the next week. And he doesn't get upset sharing the ball with other people. The way the Niners, I feel like, succeed is with them sharing the possessions with every single playmaker they have. Like Brandon Ayuk is performing, I feel like, one of his best seasons all time. And he's probably going to be pretty close to actually beating a couple records if he keeps on doing this the next season also. Like, Debo was our main focus. I remember back in 2018 when we drafted him, maybe earlier. I have a foggy memory on that dates. But I don't remember having such a great offensive team for the Niners. Like in this prime age, yeah, we talk about the 1980s to 1990s Niners, but we always could say they were the best NFL team when it comes to that. But right now, I would say with the team they have and the people they would go against in the playoffs, it would be pretty well unless Brock Purdy fucks it up. I'm just gonna say it now. Like,
yeah,
he's had some games where I've had some doubts with him, and I wanted them to bench him basically, wouldn't put him Sam Darnold. Like, I prefer him to play than Brock Purdy throwing 4 picks.
Which actually, I just want to throw in real quick that Sal is absolutely 100% the first person I know for a fact that I ever heard say Brock Purdy should be starting. And that was, the beginning of last year when Trey Lance was named the starter?
No, it was when we were in training camp, I believe, when they were trying to determine the starter.
Yeah,
and I was
early,
I was very upset they were considering Trey Lance as the starter. Like, no respect. I respect the guy. He's a great ball player, but he doesn't have the experience I want as a quarterback. Like,
and he probably
look back to Brock Purdy from Iowa State. I can see. We can go a different rabbit hole if you guys want me back another episode. We can talk about him.
At this point, he would have to take a Geno Smith-like route to career relevancy, is what I would say. Or, I guess, not to go anywhere near this level of expectation, but like a Tom Brady where Dak Prescott gets hurt. Not that we're wishing for that, because Dak Prescott's had actually a terrific season, and I'm not going to overreact and say he's jumped a tier in quarterbacks, but he's had a really, really good season. And anyway, point being, not for an injury.
I actually think that you brought up Dak, do the Tom Brady thing. I think he could actually have, like, Trey Lance could be a Dak Prescott. I think that he that
actually is probably the best comp to go. Actually,
he's in the best system to succeed. It's only the issue with the person in front of him. Like, if he goes down,
his own development.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I can tip my hat to him. He definitely stepped up his work ethic when it comes to the Niners camp this coming year when he was named the starter, or last year, when he was named the starter and then lost it this year. He was still pushing to be the starter. He just lost the battle.
Yeah, which, is sports. So, yeah.
I don't want to get fired up here, guys, but, like, can I have my fucking flowers for saying that the Niners... How good would this Niners team be with Justin Fields? I wanted them to take Justin Fields so badly.
I think we all did.
It was so...
I don't know. That's a tough one, Trevor. Well, we can go in a different discussion another day for that one.
I
But
mean, listen, Justin Fields plays for a franchise where Jay Cutler has a genuine argument as a top 3 quarterback in franchise history. That is a very, very
Jay Cutler's the best quarterback in Bears franchise history.
besides like Sid Luckman, right? And that's like
Yeah, right.
1930s NFL.
in
So
the modern era. Yeah.
yeah, like does that even count? I don't know. And like Jim McMahon probably gets a tick just for winning a Super Bowl, but you're kind of right that
I mean,
yeah, in terms of pure talent, like Jay Cutler probably was the best one besides Sid Luckman. So, I think
that's
Justin
brutal.
Fields again, this is the thing we have like a Patrick Mahomes like expectation. Like, is he going to take over the league? No, but like Justin Fields is playing good ball now in a city that hasn't developed a quarterback ever. Like Mitch Trubisky might have an argument as a top 5 quarterback in their franchise history just because he made a Pro Bowl in a season where he was ranked 30th out of 32 quarterbacks by PFF. Like that is
I remember that year. That was
astounding.
difficult.
And that Bears team is like one of my favorite teams of all time. I could tell you the entire starting 11 on their defense. I know it front to back. Mitch Trubisky was not taking them anywhere. And that's why they lost to the Eagles in the first round of the playoffs. Well, I guess it's because of the upright, but
well, dude, and that the other thing with the Bears, right, is that I mean they're 7-9 right now, and they fucking suck. They're not good like at all. Like
well, when they started the year, they were terrible, but because their defense was so bad at the beginning of the season. But they're the number 2 run defense, I think, in the NFL. Someone can check me on that. Like that defense is getting legitimate under Matt Eberflus. It's really if they can figure it out on the back end, and there's definitely some conflict there with Jalen Johnson coming up as a free agent, but he also doesn't totally fit what they love to do. Matt Eberflus is definitely more of a Tampa 2 softer zone kind of guy, and Jalen Johnson is more of a man-to-man corner. Arguably, I mean, maybe a hot take, but I think he's in the discussion for best corner in football. You can fight me on that. He's really, really good. So, I think the Bears are moving in a good direction, and considering how badly they started the year, I mean, they lost to the Broncos after they had a 70 burger dropped on them at home. They lost to them at home. So, this is also partially because I think I'm becoming a Bears fan, just somehow, some way. It's God's plan, evidently, for me. So maybe that's why I'm.
You've been a low-key Bears fan for so long, dude.
Right? We just need to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Well, I just saw today, actually, like 2 hours ago, they got the number 1 pick this year. They're gonna
because of Carolina. So I mean, that's gonna be the tough part, and that's gonna be the really tough part. And the Bears could cash in right now for all the assets in the world they would need to build around Justin Fields. Is the other, part of that discussion is obviously you could just replace Justin Fields with Caleb Williams, but you could also trade down, probably get, a pick in the first, second, and third round, depending on how far you go down, and then an additional pick or 2 for the next season. So, the Bears are in, I know people are like, how the heck did a playoff discussion end up being centered around the Bears? And we apologize for that. But the Bears are in a interesting
sports, man. This is rabbit hole sports. That's what we come here for.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. We can talk about the Cowboys. ESPN can talk about the Cowboys, man. I want to talk about the Bears.
I was like, this is what I always tune in for. I always listen to all that chaos.
Yeah, I'm glad anytime, that's the great part about this show. Anytime I'm like, gosh, people are going to be zoning out, I remember, like, this is why they listen to zone out and hear nonsense. And an occasional thing where they're like, oh, that was actually helpful.
Fellas, I think we agree that, so long as Brock Purdy can kind of, hold it together a little bit and, doesn't kind of, piss himself in the playoffs, I think the 49ers are contenders, yeah?
The Niners, to me, and I don't think I'm going out on a limb here, but just front to back, the Niners, at least top end and starter-wise, are the best team in the league by a mile.
I agree.
It's the best.
Most definitely, yes.
Yeah, it's the best starting 22 all put together. The problem is, and again, I think this probably loops back to, I mean, really the main thing that angered people with the Brock Purdy discussion, and probably what you're alluding to when you brought it up earlier, Trevor, is that how is the MVP of the league the guy that we view as the one liability, as the one wild card as to how good they'll be? Now, in his defense, when he's good, he's been really, 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 really good. And we could get into the whole Cam Newton game manager thing if we wanted to, but that'll add 4 hours onto this. So we aren't going to do that right now. So for, keeping it on point, yeah, it's on Brock Purdy, not like directly, on his shoulders, but just how far they go in the playoffs is going to correlate with his performance.
Really, really quickly, I need to mark one thing down.
Absolutely.
To the Cowboys and Lions. So we're going to go Cowboys, Lions, and Bears here. We're going to go with the Bears first. Okay. If they draft Caleb Williams to replace Justin Fields, it's the worst mistake since they take Trubisky over Mahomes. Eberflus is gone. Their GM is gone after a season. It's a shit show, train wreck disaster. Okay. Caleb Williams is an all-time bust.
Really?
That if he goes to the Bears, yeah, 100%.
I'm not gonna lie, Trevor. I 100% agree with you.
And you know what? I don't particularly like Caleb Williams. I'm just gonna. I know that this is not the conversation we're having. We're gonna get into the NFL draft in a much later date. I'm not a Caleb Williams guy. But
I still am a Caleb Williams guy, but I actually think there is a different quarterback, and again, we can get into this later, who I would arguably take number one overall, and I don't think it's someone. There's kind of two names people are kind of thinking about quarterback-wise that would fit that mold. I don't think it's someone people are thinking about too much in that regard.
Are you going to hold on to this? I feel like I know what you're going to say. Are you going to put the names out, or you're going to hold on to them for a later?
I'm going to hold on to it.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil it then, because I bet I could guess the two names. But,
well, no, I have one name. I was just saying the two names that are normally thrown up at the top are Williams and May. I have one different one that based on what I've been watching recently, I have a different guy I think deserves more of that discussion and isn't going to. I don't think. But my hot take.
Yeah, give it to me. I can't wait on this. I'm sorry. I don't mean to peer pressure you into it here, but I really need to know.
Oh, it's Jaden Daniels.
It's Jaden Daniels. Okay, great. I knew it. Okay, yeah. I knew it.
100%.
And you know what?
With it. That's a great pick. I'm not gonna lie. I have love for his game.
Love him.
I feel like Calvin, we've had discussions back in the day when we were in college. We always picked up random players saying they're going to be definitely guaranteed like a superstar when it comes to the NFL. And I have a feeling you actually brought Jaden Daniels up when he started his college career.
I was on him big at ASU, and then ASU things were going on, and I was like, and then he went to LSU, man, and I really liked him last year, and I was like, I don't know, no one's really talking about him. He's not getting NFL buzz anymore. Now he's going to be, this was his 5th year, so that's probably the biggest thing that will keep him from getting a genuine look at being the number one pick. I mean, if you want to pick apart his tape and find something that you think is just such a deal breaker, or a bigger deal breaker than anything that you'll find flaw-wise on Caleb Williams and Drake May's tape, I would love to see it, because I have not found it. I have not found it. I think I think they all have different holes in their game, but I don't think any one of them has one that's more detrimental than the other, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. And the thing with Jalen Daniels, I feel like the argument is always that he's like too small or too thin or whatever, but he's listed. I know it's going to be different at the combine, right? Maybe a little, but he's listed right now 6'4", 210.
Yeah.
I mean, Bryce Young is, 6 foot 190. So like, what are we doing here? Jalen Daniels, the fact that he's not in the top 3 picks conversation. I mean, my personal rankings, QB rankings right now, and then I swear we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys for 5 seconds because pretenders. Personal QB rankings right now. May, obviously. May is going to be number one the whole year. Fight me. I don't care. I die on the hill. May,
On the
1.
Chapel Hill.
On the Chapel Hill. There you go. Go Heels, baby. I appreciate that. Thank you. May is 1. Daniels is 2. Williams is 3.
All right.
That-
We'll have
that's
to release some big boards or something.
Yeah, I might be. I might have to cook something up for that because it's starting to piss me off, the QB debates in this year's draft. But we can move on.
No, we better move on because we'll talk quarterbacks till the sun is up tomorrow morning. So we'll let's get to the Cowboys. Yeah, it's as much as I think Dak Prescott has had a better season, it's the same team that it's always been for Dallas. If they're playing at home and they're, if they're playing at home, I feel pretty good. If they're not, I don't. And they'll likely have at least one. Actually, right as of now, barring them losing next week, they will likely have 2 home playoff games as long as they win their first, because they will be the 2 seed since the Eagles decided to expose themselves for us today by losing to the Arizona Cardinals. So that's another team maybe we wanted to talk about too much. But yeah, same old Cowboys, unfortunately, I'm afraid. And they were a team I kind of hyped up a little bit at the beginning of the year, which, you guys know me. I love when the Cowboys lose just because I hate when fans start living vicariously through their team, and Cowboy fans do it to a more delusional level than the human brain can comprehend. So, me going out on a limb for the Cowboys earlier in the year is astonishing stuff that happened, and I am the fool for it, and I should have known. I've been calling him the fool for so long, so I'll put my hand up on that one. Pretender.
Sal, I'm gonna let you go here because I'm sure everybody could hear me laughing as soon as Calvin started talking about the Cowboys, because it's exactly how I would have started off the segment. He was like, they're just like, it's just so it's like very, very non-committal, very, with almost no conviction to the Cowboys being good. So I really appreciate that, Calvin. And Sal, what do you think about the board?
Honestly, you guys, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like all 3 of us are in the same agreement with this one. Who cares about the Cowboys?
Fortunately, too many people that have the jobs we want.
Oh. You are correct, but still, you will never see the day where I'm going to be cheering for the Cowboys. Like, I'm 100% despise the Cowboys. I'm always going to have that rivalry against them, except that one week where the Niners needed them to win so we could have a good playoff position. So that's the only time you'll see me root for them. But other than that, they're pretenders. Same team they usually run, and one of them always gets hurt in the playoffs, so they're never going to make it.
Is there any more community or any better community building moment in sports than when you need to root for your rival to win to help you out? I mean, you see things you will never see.
It hurt a little bit just to root for the Cowboys that one week. I got so much of the complaints from my coworkers the next day about it. They were like, "We hate it, but we need the Niners to win. Come on." So,
if the Dodgers played the Yankees, I don't even know who to root for. Just
they don't get me started with the Dodgers right now, man.
Yeah, I hope the game gets postponed. I guess just cancel it.
Yep.
I have to go Yankees.
Quick side note: we're all Padres guys, huh?
Oh yeah. I probably am a newer Padre guy than you guys because I'm from up here, Northern California.
Sounds all right.
Let me just say,
under the same roof.
Let me just say, Sal, between the Cowboys takes and the Padres fandom, 100% certified ball knower, invited back on the pod anytime. Big fan.
That's all we ask for. Just shit on. Just don't like the Cowboys, like the Padres. You're in.
There you go.
Just kidding. No biases here, but we love the Padres and are on our best days indifferent on the Cowboys.
That's
with
the
that being
thing.
said,
Like, I don't even really care about them. Like, I don't think about. Have you guys ever watched Mad Men?
yes,
Okay. Do you remember the scene in Mad Men where it's like he's like some like lower level ad executive? It's in the later seasons. I haven't watched it in a little, but it's also a meme. They're in the elevator and he's like going off at Dodd Draper about something, and Dodd just looks at him. He's like, "I don't think about you at all." Like,
yes,
that's how I feel about the
absolutely.
Cowboys. That's yeah, right there with you, Donnie. Like that's yeah, nothing going on.
Beautiful. That feels like the perfect way to maybe move into a team that people come together to, like, even if they're not their actual team. And that's the Detroit Lions, who, congrats. We are witnesses to history, everyone. The Detroit Lions have accomplished something. Well, this is the way I'm going to frame this. We got to see something that no humans prior to us ever got to see in the history of the universe, and that's the Detroit Lions winning the NFC North. So let's give ourselves a quick pat on the back. Their last division title, 93, it was the NFC Central. They literally have never won the division they've been playing in for almost 2 decades. So, I don't want to hear anyone complain about anything with their sports team. If you're not a Detroit fan who now, your basketball team's the worst thing of all time, and that's a real bummer. But we're going to keep it football related with the Detroit Lions. They're a disruptor in my eyes. I think they're a pretty classic disruptor. I would love to label them a contender. They just don't have enough guys on the back end right now. Maybe CJ Gardner-Johnson gets back for the postseason. That gives them a little boost. The defense looked like it was making a leap forward to the spot it needed to maybe go for them to make a legitimate run towards the beginning of the season. And then there was a really, really bad regression in the middle of the year. They've recouped, I would say, the past few weeks to, sort of level it out, regress back towards the mean, whatever term you want to throw in there. But overall, love the offense. Really like what Ben Johnson does. I love their mentality. That's why if you're going pretender, I won't buy that. It'd be easier to sell me on contender than pretender. I'll say that. But I think disruptor, it'd be really hard to move me out of that zone. I don't know. It's just kind of that perfect disruptor where it's like, well, offensively, they're going to have the ability to keep up with pretty much any team, but their defense might give up 50 points.
Can I, would you guys mind if I just really quickly quoted my favorite sports journalist of all time, Mr. Jalen Rose?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
The Detroit Lions are contenders, guys. They're contenders. Okay? The Detroit Lions have 2 top 10 running backs in the league. Jared Goff is also leading the NFL. No, he is. He's leading the NFL in passing yards. He's 3rd in the NFL in passing touchdowns. Okay, he's thrown 12 interceptions, which is kind of middle of the league this year, right? But Amon-Ra St. Brown, over 1,000 yards, 9 TDs. Sam Laporta, that's the best rookie tight end in, maybe a decade.
Yeah, shoot.
He's been absolutely phenomenal. And they have a couple of those secondary players. Obviously, Jahmyr Gibbs can catch the football out of the backfield too, and so could David Montgomery. I mean, those guys have been absolute studs for Detroit. Is the defense the most talented defense in the NFL? No, it's not. Do they have some really great playmakers who can break a game, like a Brian Branch, for example, one of the better young safeties in the league, like an Aiden Hutchinson, one of the best young pass rushers in the league? Yeah, they absolutely do. CJ Gardner-Johnson's not taking no shit. I love this Lions team. I might be a certified Lions fan. We might have a little rivalry going.
Is CJ Gardner-Johnson for sure playing?
Oh, maybe not. Is he out?
He's been out the whole year, pretty much.
He's been out the whole year. I'm a liar. I'm not a true fan.
He tore his tricep or pec. I can't remember which one. But the other ironic part now that you mention it, is I actually have family from Detroit, the Detroit area in Michigan. So I have legitimate reasoning to be a Lions fan. Yet here I am like, oh, maybe I should root for the Bears. You see why I end up sad sometimes? It's the decisions we make, everyone.
Decisions we make. Lions, contenders, slap it down. Jared Goff. Elite this year, for sure.
Not elite, but he's. I grew. Well,
Jared Goff's best statistically. Jared Goff is the best quarterback in the NFL and led his team to a divisional title.
yes, I'm well aware, but I also am well aware of that list of playmakers you just gave out and the fact that their offensive coordinator's up for several head coaching jobs. And I don't want to slander Jared Goff. He's definitely one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks in football. But I think elite would be a step too far.
Okay, so who's elite then? I'm talking about this year. I'm talking about just this year.
Okay, just this year. Then yeah, absolutely. Jared Goff has had an elite season. Absolutely.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. Like, just to add on to all, like both of your guys' points, basically, they're a contender, but it's their playmaking ability. I feel like in the defensive side, it's what's going to worry them the most. Like Jared Goff is a good quarterback. I feel like he has the playoff experience to get this done. It's just the injuries they have and the people they need to fill in those positions isn't going to go well for them.
Their corners have been. I mean, Cam Sutton's been all right, but that second corner spot has been a huge issue for them all year. Looked like I forget who they Victor Valdor, I want to say, is who ended up getting the start or most of the snaps over there last night in Dallas, and he did all right. He did fine. But beyond that, Jerry Jacobs has been awful. No disrespect. It's been a tough year for him. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think if I had seen the Lions in the playoffs a couple years, like the previous couple years, I think I'd be willing to give them the contender label. But, I don't know. But then again, I feel like there's always kind of been a team you're not really expecting that's maybe a little more offensive leaning that ends up making it through the postseason. So, I mean, I could definitely see the Lions being very similar to the 2021 Bengals, who I mentioned earlier as kind of that classic disruptor team, where you think of them as being really this high-level offensive team and all that. But if you go back on that playoff run for the Bengals, that defense really stepped up and started to blossom at the end of that 2021 season and had a phenomenal postseason, and then has really been one of the better defenses in the league, actually, the past couple of seasons, as much as the perception around them tends to be Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So you gentlemen make a compelling argument, and there's a part of me that would love to say contender, but I'm going to sit disruptor, and we'll all sit down and, laugh in my face after the Lions win the Super Bowl.
I just, I have a theory about Jared Goff, and then we can move on. If that's all right.
Absolutely. Does it have anything to do with the fact that since he's come into the league, he has the best record of any quarterback against the spread?
It does not, although that is a very interesting note.
Weird stat for everyone. Write that one down.
That is definitely very interesting. My thought is much more half-cocked, harebrained than that. And it's that Jared Goff used to be soft. He was a California kid, as we all are, and we know that the West Coast could be a beautiful place full of love and dreams, but it could also be full of a bunch of pretentious assholes who don't really know, how to live life when it gets difficult. Yes. And I think Jared Goff,
from reality.
Jared Goff is the son of a Major League Baseball player. I don't think he wanted for much growing up, and he's this big time QB prospect, and he goes to Cal, and he's a big man on campus at Cal, and hanging out with all the cowgirls up there, and then he goes number 1 overall to the Rams. He's Mr. LA, and then Sean McVay really smacked him around a little bit and said, hey, you're not the guy for us. And I think getting traded to Detroit really shook him, and people really, were kind of like, who gives a shit about Jared Goff, right? I mean, I thought, his career is basically over. That's what a lot of people thought, is that, he's going to the vicious turnstile of Detroit quarterbacks and disappear into the abyss. But here he is, leading the league in passing yards, 3rd in touchdowns. And I just, that's why I think I would label them a contender. Is I think Jared Goff has been through enough in his career that when it comes, he led the Rams to a Super Bowl, and I think that if he had all this experience at that period of time, we'd be talking about Jared Goff Super Bowl champion. So things got to lean the right way. It's going to depend on matchup.
Because the Patriots just in that Super Bowl, and then we can move on to the Eagles, actually. And you do make a great point. Jared Goff, granted, I've never met the guy, never talked to him, couldn't give you a comparison of then of now, but just from watching the games, he definitely looks like when, stuff hits the fan, so to speak, he keeps his composure now. He stays in the game, and he can answer. He doesn't, kind of curl up and get scared to throw the ball into spaces. He stays aggressive and he stays confident, and the team keeps its confidence in him. I think that's another big thing as well that you can make an argument was potentially part of the problem in LA. I think Sean McVay was kind of very quick to rein things in with Jared Goff. So, I like the points you're making. I really, really, really do. And I would love to see the Lions make a little run. So with that being said, are we all clear on going to the Eagles?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I'm clear right here too.
Beautiful. I don't know if anyone in particular wants to kick us off with this one, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not thrilled on the Eagles.
Yeah, Sal, what do you think?
This one always hurts my heart from last year. We had that if we had everyone healthy last year, the Eagles would not have been in the conversation for the Super Bowl. It would have been the opposite score last year. I 100% would have believed it would have been the opposite score. But they have a great team. They play great football. And Andy Reid, or not Andy Reid, but what's his name? Nick Sirianni. He's such a great coach. But the issue is I feel like he's an offensive coach more than a defensive coach at this point.
Yeah.
So it's getting to the point now where I don't trust their defense as much as I trust their offense to get it done. I feel like back in this other Super Bowl era, or not eras, but other matchups they had a somewhat good defense to back it up, and now it's on the edge for me.
Yeah, I mean their defense has been a liability all season, and last year it was really that pass rush that was such a big part of their defense and that D line and that front, and it just hasn't been the case this year. And then again, with the loss of, we already talked about him a little bit now that he's in Detroit, but with losing CJ Gardner-Johnson, that back end is very vulnerable, and it looks a lot more vulnerable than it was last year. Although I know the Niners were saying they felt like they could carve it up, and I think that's, beyond just the losing Brock Purdy aspect of it. I think it's the inability to really, they felt they had a really great game plan for that game, I think is probably the part that made it that much more frustrating for them. And I mean, the Chiefs really then went on to expose. I mean, saying expose is tough, but there were the two plays the Chiefs ran, or essentially the same play to different sides, where it was just kind of a quick return motion basically to the flat from Sky Moore, and he was uncovered for touchdowns. So there are definitely things on the back end that showed up for the Eagles last year. In the moment is hard to label as just teams kind of getting a read on what you're doing versus genuine structural / personnel issues. And then you add losing your coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, on top of that, who coincidentally, I didn't even think about this, was the one head coaching the Cardinals today when they beat the Eagles. So weird connection there. So yeah, I mean, it's not good in Philly. And if they had won today and next week against the Giants, it would have been pretty easy for me to get up here and say, I think that given their run they made last year, and given the fact they still found a way to win 13 games and they consistently find ways to win, yeah, they're still a contender. They could still do that. But I can't. Today, like, locked it in for me. I'm not on the Eagles at all. I think they're a pretender. Especially now, I mean, they essentially forfeited away the NFC East, barring the Cowboys, essentially having the same kind of catastrophic meltdown the Eagles had today. If the Cowboys have that themselves next week, then it goes back to the Eagles likely winning the East if they beat the Giants. But as of right now, all the Cowboys have to do is win next week and they win the division. So, yeah, I'm officially out on the Eagles after today, and I'm going to go pretender.
I'm 100% going to go pretender for two reasons. I'm going to make a pretty solid statistical argument, I think, here. Their wins are not particularly impressive, and their losses are particularly devastating.
Yeah.
They beat New England, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Washington in overtime, LA. They had the best win, I think, would be versus Miami in week 7, 31-17 there. That was when not Antonio Brown. Whoa, whoops. AJ Brown. He had 137 yards in that game. And he was kind of coming down off that huge streak that he was on to start the season. But they have lost, like I said, to New York. They lost to San Francisco 42-19, which I think really, pretty early cemented their pretender status in my mind. Then they go on to lose, 3 straight. They lost to Dallas and then the Seahawks, which I think are two pretty brutal losses, especially with Dallas. 33-13 against your biggest divisional rival there.
Yeah.
And then of course losing to Arizona today
at home.
I mean, dude, the Arizona loss is fucking soft. I'm sorry, but that's a soft loss. And I hate, far be it from me, the worst NFL player could kick the absolute shit out of me. But I mean, that's a bad, ugly loss. And the other thing that I'm going to say here is team total defense. The Eagles are 20th in defensive yards average per game. And as far as I can tell too, the Panthers, Cardinals, and Panthers. So the Panthers, the Cardinals, the Commanders, and the Chargers are the only 4 teams in the NFL that have given up more touchdowns than the Eagles.
Yeah,
the Eagles have allowed 44 touchdowns, which is awful for a playoff team. I mean, that is hot garbage for a playoff team. This is through week 16, and I don't see it at all, dude. It's not the same team that it was last year. I'm not a particular. I mean, I like Jalen Hurts. Don't get me wrong, but DeAndre Swift hasn't really, he's been good for them this year. But every time they lose to, if you just quickly scan the high rush yards, every loss they've had, Hurts was the high rusher with 47 versus the Jets. Hurts was the high rusher with 20 versus the Niners. Couldn't get anything going in that game. Swift only had 39 yards versus Dallas in week 14. And then Hurts is the high rusher versus Seattle with 82. So out of their losses, really the Arizona game today is the only one where DeAndre Swift led the team in rushing, and he only had 61 yards today.
Yeah.
So I think that's really a testament to if they can't get their run game going the way that they like to, their defense can't really do anything, and their offense, I love their receivers for sure, and I really like Jalen Hurts, but outside of that, whatever.
That concludes part 3 of our episode on NFL postseason contenders, pretenders, and disruptors with our special guest, Sal Garcia. Part 4 is already up on YouTube and Spotify whenever you're ready to jump back into the rabbit hole. If you want more content from us, head on over to rabbitholesports.com. There you can find our blog and social media links, as well as the sign up for our weekly sports newsletter subscriptions. This is our only form of current revenue at Rabbit Hole Sports, and your support will help us grow. We have options for as cheap as 83 cents per month when you pay for a full year. We greatly appreciate everyone's generosity and can't thank you enough for helping us out. Take care, everyone, and God bless.
I'm Trevor Hall.
And I'm Calvin Zeljak. Thanks for joining us.
Down the rabbit hole.